Hi everyone, welcome to Quarantine Cooking. I know all of you have been cooking amazing food and I've been seeing them on social media during this quarantine time. I know it's a great time for us to try different recipes. What we're going to show you today, a recipe that is very popular in the George household. It's chicken Murphy. It's actually a copycat recipe that I came up with from a restaurant that we like very much here in Carrollton. We're hopeful that you'll be able to follow along. Here we go. Okay, so the chicken marinade is somewhat very standard for me. This is kind of the lineup that I use all the time. So I always have in my pantry a roasted garlic herb seasoning, which I get this from Sam's. You can use any herb seasoning that you like and how much of it that you like based on what your children or your family likes. So I use probably a good amount, so easily 3 tablespoons. Granulated onion, which is something I always have in my house, so about a spoon and a half of that. Granulated garlic powder, always have this in my spice cabinet, probably about a spoon and a half of that because I love garlic in my chicken especially. Crushed black pepper, so about a spoon of that, and then ground cumin. We think that cumin is only used for Indian food. Well, let me tell you, it's used a lot for Italian food and for Mexican food. So feel free to based on what you like, especially for any kind of poultry. And then salt, probably, again, to taste. And finish marinated with olive oil. I like to keep my marinade overnight for best results, but if you're in a rush, feel free to just mix it up really well with your chicken. Probably about 3 or 4 tablespoons of olive oil, and mix in your chicken and leave it overnight, and then get going for the next step. So I would typically sear the chicken on the stovetop, but for convenience, we're going to go ahead and broil it on low heat at about 400 if you don't have a low setting on your oven. And we're just going to broil it so it'll be clean and easy and just out of the oven for probably about 10 minutes. So once your pan is hot, a little bit of olive oil, and once that olive oil is heated up, just probably about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Once it's heated up, then you're going to saute your onions till they're lightly golden. So this is about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Once it was hot, I tossed the onions in there, and I'm just gonna let this saute till the onions get about golden brown, and then I'm gonna add a little bit more of my fresh garlic and the other spices. Okay, a little bit of chopped garlic. So this is probably about, I think, 3 cloves of garlic. Keep going till, again, just a little bit more brown. About 10 minutes into the low broil, flip your chicken. Well, it's time for our spices. Once the onions are golden brown, we're gonna add in some more of the roasted garlic herb seasoning. And I don't know, maybe about 2 spoons of it or so. Black pepper, crushed black pepper, and some cumin powder. There was a lot of cumin used in Italian food, so it's good for us. We think it's only Indian, but it's actually used in many different cuisines. And then stir all of that together. So I also put a little bit of oregano or Italian seasoning. If you have rosemary at home, that'll work. I'm a big believer not to go out and buy a whole bunch of herbs. Just whatever you have that is a little Italian kind of seasoning, just use that. And it'll do great. If your kids don't like a lot of seasoning, don't even worry about it. Just stick with the basics that you think that they would like.
And do you want me to go outside and get some rosemary for you?
That'd be great, honey. Thank you.
Be right back.
Okay, now we're ready for the sauce. Okay, So it's just a basic tomato sauce, and I just use this because this is what I have in my refrigerator. Again, don't go out and buy all kinds of fancy things. Just basic things is what works best. So just incorporate that in. This was a big can. It was, this is a 2-pound can, 32 ounces. So it was probably half full when I got to it. A bit of water so I can get the rest of the tomato sauce in there, and it needs a little water anyway. Okay, and then I put about, this is half of a cheesecake, cream cheese, about 4 ounces. So I just throw that right into the sauce mix.
And here's the cariapala you were looking for.
Thank you for the rosemary. Let me go ahead and chop this up. You just kind of break, I just break it apart. No fancy kneading, cutting, or anything like that.
And for all the men of the house, as you know, this cooking generates a lot of smell all around the house. Just in case, you might want to keep this handy.
So the chicken is done. Again, just a nice little crisp on the top, but not fully cooked. Just probably, again, maybe 7 minutes on one side, 7 minutes on the other side, and then we're gonna bake it all together. So the cream cheese and the sauce is all blended in nicely well, and I'm just gonna throw in the pickled jalapeno right into it. I like my sauce to be a little bit more brothy, so I have some chicken broth here. I'm just gonna kind of add to it. If you like it a little bit thicker, then you can just avoid the broth. But it should just be enough to coat the chicken when you're putting it in the casserole dish. Okay, final ingredient. I have, this is about...
I burned myself. Aji.
Okay, really stay out of the kitchen. This is about 3 bell peppers. I use both red and green just to give it a little bit of added color. You can do whatever.
And yellow.
Yellow if you'd like that as well.
Because yellow's a dirty fellow. And how come you didn't saute those before you threw them in there, Aji?
Because we're gonna bake it, so we're gonna bake all of it, so it doesn't really need to be sauteed. So here, I like it a little bit more liquidy, so I'm gonna put a little bit more broth in here. You could add heavy whipping cream if you want to. If you want it really heavy, creamy, you can do that. But I like to keep it, I mean, we have a lot of cream cheese in there, so I want to try to keep it a little bit light. You can avoid the cream cheese, by the way, and just do heavy whipping cream by itself. But this is a consistency that you should have when you're done with your sauce, so you can just pour it right over your chicken. And we are now done and ready to put it in the casserole dish. So I want to check for a little bit of salt because the garlic, roasted garlic seasoning has a lot of salt, so I don't really salt a lot, but that's really up to you, however, so how much salt you want for your meal.
She's always assaulting her food.
Okay, so move your chicken into a casserole dish that can go in the oven, and something that has a little bit of a width or a height, so you can put the sauce right in there as well. If you were going to sear it, I would do everything in the same pan. If you were going to sear the chicken, that is, and I would just use everything in the same pan without any oven time at all. But I like to use the oven. It doesn't mess up my stove top, and it's just a lot easier. I can do it all at the same time. So now I'm just ready for the final touches. You just scoop up the sauce mixture right over your chicken. You know, one of the things that I love about this meal is that I can have it completely ready to go and make it do the baking at the very end, and or after my guests come, or right when we're ready to have dinner, or my favorite thing, I could do it the night before, let it cool down, stick it in the refrigerator, and then have it put in the oven the next day or whenever it is that I'm ready to eat. You can even freeze it just like this at this point, and take it out whenever you're ready. Thaw it in the refrigerator overnight or at least for 24 hours, and just bake it when you're ready to eat it. So this is really a great recipe that you can take to many places. It's easy to transport just in one pot, and it's easy to make ahead and keep. This is why it's one of our favorites. So now I'm ready to bake it. So I would just cover it in foil, nicely tight, and stick it in the oven, 350 for at least, if it's warm, if it hasn't been refrigerator, at least for about 45 minutes or so. But if you're taking it out of the refrigerator and baking it either later on in the day or the next day, certainly at least for a full hour. Keep it covered and just cook it on 350 for 45 minutes. Here we go. We're now ready to make the sides for our dish. One of our staple sides in the George household is roasted Brussels sprouts. We all love them. All you do is cut off the ends of the Brussels sprouts and cut them in fours, just so you can have a little smaller piece, and just throw them in your baking sheet, just like that. The spices for the Brussels sprouts, all it is a little bit of olive oil sprinkled around, some black pepper, granulated onion powder, and garlic powder, and some salt. You just mix it all in, stir it well, coat it, make sure everything is coated well, and then stick it in the oven on low broil for probably about 10-12 minutes or so. So my oven is turned on broil, the low feature. So that's probably around 450 degrees or so. And I'm just putting it right on the top rack so it'll get nice and crispy in the oven. So the Brussels sprouts are done. And just because I'm making an Italian dish today for our dinner, I'm just adding a little bit of grated Parmesan cheese. If you have the fresh kind, that's always good, but I kind of always have this in my refrigerator. So just throw it a little bit on there and toss it along. So this dish is great with a little bit of pasta, and it's just you can have a plain pasta. I just like to dress mine up a little bit with garlic and olive oil. So that's about a tablespoon of butter. We'll put a little bit of olive oil in there and let that heat up. And then throw some of your garlic powder. If you want to use fresh, you can, but this works just as fine. I typically usually like to have granulated garlic powder. I think that cooks better and evenly spreads, so that's what I prefer. But that was powder. And then this is some dried parsley leaves. Of course, if you have the fresh one on hand, that always works the best. And that's really it. Now I'm ready to toss the pasta. And it's just a simple thing. This is something that you can do at any point right before you are ready to serve your meal. It takes about 11 minutes to cook the pasta and all of 30 seconds to toss the pasta with a little bit of butter and parsley. And you are done. You can turn the stove off. It doesn't need to be warm. So we're now ready to plate. We have an entire meal for chicken Murphy. So we're going to start off with our pasta. Okay, so you would just put a little bit of pasta on your plate, and it just depends on how much you want to serve. And then here is the chicken Murphy. It's been in the oven, and it's like when it came out of the oven, it was bubbling on the sides. It just looks fabulous. Very excited about the way it looks. So just scoop up a piece of chicken, place it right on top of the pasta. If you'd like some more sauce, for all those folks who like a lot of sauce, just a little bit on the side. Grab some of those vegetables. They're really good and our kids will love it. And then just the Brussels sprouts on the side. You can garnish more if you'd like, or put some more of the Parmesan cheese. That's always a good add-on or a topping at the end. And I always have a little bit of garnish of some sort. Made these little tree-looking things from scallions that just cut on the side and then drop it in ice water, and makes for a nice little decor of some sort. So here it is, our meal that is somewhat standard in our home for a midweek evening, or even for a company that you can do well in advance. I invite you to please just continue to try different things, see what flavors you do or do not like, or your family doesn't like. Cut out whatever it is that you want to eliminate, substitute, but the best thing is have a meal together with your family. God bless you all. Hope to see the Chicken Murphy on many folks' dinner table. Bye-bye.